This stupid punk-ass bitch over here has literally been pushing my ass to fucking try to pick up. Like, he goes like, oh, get your fucking full playset of full art Athenias, because he knows that I already had 3 and he wants me to have 4. See, he's got this pack here. It was these cards all together in a fucking sleeve, and then this stupid asshole goes like, no, just take them. I don't even want anything for them. I'm like, okay, but I only need 1. I don't need all 3. So I take it out just to look at them and just like, what the fuck, Dayman, you stupid bitch. He literally fell out of the
context of it.
Jesus Christ. This card makes me as uncomfortable as the word moist. The word moist.
And I've been sneaking that into things and giving
this is literally for fucking 2 years now. For 2 fucking years.
Oh god. The amount of times I've like snuck that into something for you, like your box of cards, and I snuck it in somewhere or something. Oh, I have so many of them.
I literally feel the way that fucking like Gil Alhamet looks in this picture is like, oh my god, miss me with that gay shit. So yeah.
The way, just the string.
No, I'm more freaked out by the fucking teeth and the tongue, dude. And he's got those creepy fucking claw finger things. Oh my god. So I've been punked. Happy Halloween, all you khakioiners out there. What better way to get all of our tricks, treats, and spookerinos off than by doing an updated Lucifer deck profile video for you guys. Yeah, this is pre-rotation. Pre-rotation. That's like my special, that's my special euphemism for I don't want to put in the effort to actually take all the super good shit from Rhea out of my decks yet and make them Valhalla only, so I'm pushing it into the near future, all the way to November, and just not even wanting to think about it, because I'm not sure how much synergy these new cards are going to have with the old ones. Obviously, there's going to be that handful of just absolute gold that applies to pretty much every deck. I mean, unless they make them like really, really ruler and mechanic special. I mean, obviously, if they bring back, you know, Regali and all that stuff, it's going to be specific to rulers, but we'll get those good cards. Anyway, so Lucy the Ferg. Lucy the Ferg is back. In this updated deck profile video, you will see an updated deck profile. Yeah, redundancy. That's what I'm good at. So let's pop that bad bizzle over in that corner. I apologize for glare. I'm doing this near dusk. I think dusk is the one where it's almost nighttime. So we are running 4 of Lailah, the Maiden of the Swamps. I finally got the 4th one, by the way. Finally got it from Dayman, who in this Spooktobery season is known as Nightman, but we'll just call him Dayman. So Lailah, the Maiden of the Swamps. She is a 0/2, 1 darkness wizard resonator. Oh, she's a wizard. That's cool. I thought she was just human. When this card is put to a graveyard from the field, search your Magic Stone deck for a card named Darkness Magic Stone and put it into the field. Not rested, but recovered. Then shuffle your Magic Stone deck. So we run 4 of this beautiful Maiden, and I mean, nothing has changed in the meta in my books when it comes to Lucifer or any sack altar stone ramped mechanic. So she's there so that we can get more stones quicker than our opponent. Speaking of which, we run... Oh. Okay. Oh, where'd it go? Okay, well, we're going to keep doing 1-drops. We run 3 of a life-severing Zucchini Blade. It is... I love this card. And here's one in absolutely gorgeous full art. So, Life-Severing Zucchini Blade. It is a 1 darkness and 2 colorless, though there's a stipulation. Quick cast chant with the following ability. If a resonator you control was put into the graveyard from the field this turn, so it's technically got morbid if we're going off of Magic the Gathering terms, you may pay 2 colorless less to play this card. So this with Lailah or any other resonator that we have on the field in conjunction with the next card I'm going to show you guys, which is the Sacrificial Altar. we're killing our own stuff for beneficial what's-em-who's-its, and then we're taking it out on our opponent's resonators. Speaking of Sacrificial Altar, I run 4 Sacrificial Altars, 2 of them in absolutely gorgeous full arts. I'm going to put the 2 full arts back here because I just can't for the life of me read what they say. So it is a 2-drop, 1 darkness and 1 colorless Ancient Ruins edition. To this day, I have no idea if they were actually going to do something special with Ancient Ruins, but they didn't, so this is what we got. We've got Banish a Resonator, put an offering counter on this card. Banish this card, search your deck for a Resonator with total cost X or less and put it into the field, where X is the number of offering counters that were on this card. Then shuffle your deck. So this card, again, its utility cannot be understated. It hasn't changed since the last major meta before the release of Decisive Battle for Valhalla. It helps you siphon through your deck, it helps you get what you need, and the best part is because it can be, you can sack things in response. You don't necessarily have to lose resonators to stupid abilities that your opponents have anymore. You can then in turn just sack them to your altar, get goodies for them. And then if somebody goes to destroy your altar, you can just sack your altar to search for a resonator in response to that. So, I mean, I've complained about this card for quite a while in terms of just how fast it works and how there aren't any really viable responses to it. The usual answers I get in response are, oh, just try to get it early, so then they're forced to sack it without having a lot of counters on it. But that's, I mean, you know, when you've got things like the next card I'm going to show you guys, which is March of the Dead, or you've got Skeleton Horde, where you can just pump a lot of things into it all at once, saying get rid of it early is really not a very viable response. So anyhow, I run 3 of the chant March of the Dead. I'm going to put these down here. So, March of the Dead is a 1 darkness, not quick cast chant, that has the following ability. Put target resonator with total cost 2 or less from the graveyard into the field. Put up to 1 second target resonator with total cost 2 or less from your graveyard into the field if this card was awakened, and its awakening cost is 2 dark. So if you pay it for its awakening, it's a 3-drop card that lets you grab, essentially, in this deck, 2 Lailahs, or a Lailah and a card I'll show you guys later. It's just so much quality, especially early game when you're using Lailahs and Sacrificial Altars to get as much of a stone advantage on your opponent as possible. Speaking of another possible resonator to grab from the grave with March of the Dead, we've got 2 copies in gorgeous, beautiful full art of the original Oborozuki. Let's see if I can actually read this, because it's in full art, so it's a little bit difficult. So she is a 2 darkness, 2-drop, 6/6 vampire resonator with the following abilities. Enter, you may banish a resonator. If you do, put a fresh blood counter on this card. This card gains +2/+2 and flying as long as there are a fresh blood counter on it. So if you do the enter ability of sacking a resonator, and her main utility in this deck is to have, when I don't run into the altars, which has happened before, and actually I've got a recording where the first match against Nova's Perfect Loki deck, I literally didn't see a single Sacrificial Altar, even though I've got 4 in the deck and a decent amount of draw. She is my second sack avenue. So she enters, I can sack, let's say, a Lailah, get another stone to the field, and she's going to have a permanent 2/2 and flying. Then, continuing with her ability, she's got, whenever this card attacks, you may banish a resonator, going on to that whole sack mechanic thing. If you do, target resonator gains -4/-4 until the end of turn. So it's a great way to deal with the mana-fixing dinkies that almost every deck is running now, since all of them have just their static 4/4 in terms of stats. And her final ability that a lot of people forget about is Awakening for 4 darkness. So this card would cost 6 to cast with its Awakening. Enter, destroy all J rulers. So it's only, oh, that's a really weird stipulation. J rulers, not J resonators. So she enters the field as a 6-drop and you kill your opponent's Lucifer or Perfect Loki or what have you, people who are actually wanting to flip. Okay, then we're gonna get into the 3-drops. We've got 3 of the amazing chant Soul Prison, 2 of the 3 in gorgeous full art. I'm gonna pop these over Hither. So it is a, well, its total converted mana cost is actually 6 with Divinity 3, but it's in the deck, so we don't care. But you may pay 3 less, 3 colorless specifically, to play this card. if your J ruler is Lucifer or Lucifer Fallen Angel of Sorrow. Target resonator gains -0, -1000, so -1000 to defense, until the end of turn. When this card is put into a graveyard, this turn, put it into the field under your control. One specific combination I really like doing with this is having Ushuah hit the field. Let's say with a Heroic Epic, we put the Soul Prison onto it, and either the opponent has to block it since he's got an 11,000 defense, so he's only going to have 100 defense when he attacks. They're either going to have to block it or take 17, and then he dies. Because this doesn't say comes in rested, like Power of Immortality, he hits the field, gives himself swiftness, and then you can attack again. You also get the proc off the top of the deck, grab a 5-drop or less again because he entered the field again. Or, if you've also got a Sacrificial Altar on the field, they don't block it, it goes through, they take 17, you sack it to Sac Altar, it hits the grave, it comes back to the field again, you can swing again, and it procs his enter ability again. So I love this card. You can use it with a bunch of different things. Specifically, Athenia, she has exactly 1000 defense, so this is really good with that as well. Just pretty much any enter ability that you'd want, this card is phenomenal. If you're running Lucifer, you should run this card. No excuses. The next card in the deck is a whopping 4, a full playset of the amazing Resonator Astema, the Returnee of Hatred. And actually, when I first started playing this game, this was one of my favorite Resonators that I saw from, I think it was Alice. I can't remember if it was Alice or Grimm. And I saw it in one of the trade binders at a local shop in our city, and I had no idea what she was from, but her original art was freaking awesome. So, she is a 3-drop, 2 darkness, and 1 colorless, Fallen Angel Wanderer Resonator. 7/6 with flying, don't forget that. She's got the enter ability. Your opponent loses 500 life. If there are 3 or more runes revealed from your rune area, you gain 500 life. I mean, the way that I play this deck, by the time you get this Resonator out, you're always going to have 3 runes revealed, so you're always going to get that +5 to your life. Pay 400 life, draw a card, play this ability only during your turn and only once per turn. And then her final ability is pay 1000 life. Your opponent loses 500 life. Play this ability during your turn and only once per turn. So I run 4 of those. That card also runs well with Belial, which I run 1 of in the deck. I'll get to that eventually because she's a fallen angel. And that's amazing. You get to have bodies left on the field when Belial essentially just freaking ground zeros the whole field. We've got 2 1-ofs minus Belial, which I'll get to later, in the 3-drops. One of them is Lucifer, the leader of the Fallen Angels. He is a 3-drop, 2 darkness, and 1 colorless, just like Astema. 7/9 Fallen Angel Resonator. He's got flying. Pay 1000 life. This card gains +200/+200 until the end of turn. And pay 3, 2 darkness, 1 colorless. Pay 1000 life and discard a card. And, huge there, and discard a card. Play this card from your graveyard into the field. At the end of your turn, gain life equal to the amount of life you lost this turn. So a really fun thing that I love doing with this card is getting them out of grave, usually putting them with one of the runes that I'll go over later in my divinity deck, which is Invitation to Purgatory. You put him into the grave. Later on, you pay the 1000. He hits the field. You're going to get that 1000 back. And then if you've gotten 6 stones, so an extra 3, which is super easy with this deck, you can lose all your life down to your last 1000 or your last 500 or whatever variation of that to within 1000 by giving him buffs. You're not even going to use it because he doesn't have swiftness. But what that lets you do is with your remaining 3, you can cast Belial if you've got him in hand, or if earlier on you used the Demon Division, also in my Divinity deck, to search him out. You can pay him for 3. You've got Lucifer on the field, you've just dropped Belial, you've got 2 bodies at least, and you've wiped your opponent's field. Then at the end of turn, you pass turn as long as you're not going up against a red deck with open Fire Will. You gain all your life back, and you've essentially just put your opponent back to 0. So I run 1 Lucifer, and I only need 1 because, again, his main purpose is getting into my grave with that card I mentioned earlier, and then we put him onto the field. The second card I run with only 1 of, and does the exact same thing as Lucifer in terms of I get him into the grave with Invitation to Purgatory and then just play him out of the grave, is Disgraced Knight. He is a 3-drop, 8/7 zombie resonator for 3 hard darkness. with the ability, pay 1 darkness, remove 3 darkness cards from your graveyard, which is every card in this deck is darkness, from the game, and put this card from your graveyard into the field. Play this ability only during your turn. So the cool thing about this card is that originally I had skeleton hordes in the deck for my lower end of cost in the deck, but I found that they weren't really doing as much for me. So I said, okay, I need something that I can put onto the field to put bodies in the way of my opponents, especially if they're hitting me early game, and to have additional sack fodder for Sacrificial Altar, so I can get those Astemas, so I can get those Ushuah, so I can get whatever onto the field early. So I thought, hey, I'm literally using a bunch of Lailahs that don't have any use after I've just sacked them a bunch of times to get all my Darkness Stones out. I've got my March of the Deads. I've got things like a Heroic Epic for the Thousandth Knight, which I'm going to go over later. These are all darkness cards that are just sitting in my grave doing nothing. So I said, hey, I'm going to put in a Disgraced Knight. I can sack those things, pay 1 darkness every time that I've got those weird turns where I've got an even number of converted mana costs for stuff I'm casting, but an odd number of stones out. So I can cast them, put another body in the way, or have another sack fodder for my Sacrificial Altar. Speaking of Heroic Epic, I run 3 of them. It is a 1 fire, 1 darkness, and 1 colorless, so 3 cast chant. You may put a resonator from your hand into the field at the next end of turn, return card to owner's hand. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. Awesome card. I'm going to miss it like crazy, but I'm thinking that this deck is actually not going to need that much in terms of updating when I make it rotation ready. I'm going to be getting rid of this, and I'm going to be putting in the Fallen Angel of Fiery Hatred, or whatever that guy is, the mana dork for darkness, tapping for fire. Okay, well, you got a sneak peek of it, but I run 3 of the amazing new Oborozuki Resonator, which is Oborozuki Caller of Gods. So, Oborozuki Caller of Gods, I run 3 of. It is a 4 hard darkness, 1000 Vampire Wanderer Resonator with, oh my goodness, I cannot read that, with a bunch of abilities. Just a freaking shiitake fried mushroom load of of abilities. She's got Enter. Puts 2 fresh blood counters on this card. If there are 4 or more runes revealed from your rune area, put 4 fresh blood counters on this card instead. Remove a fresh blood counter from this card, and it gains flying and drain until the end of turn. So that is an awesome ability to use more defensively than aggressively, though you can go both ways. And then she's got tap, remove 2 fresh blood counters from this card, destroy target J Resonator. Phenomenal. And finally, this card gains plus 1000, as long as you control 10 or more magic stones. And with Lailah and Sacrificial Altar, Power of Immortality, to freaking March of the Dead, we get to 10 really fast. Late game, she hits the field. You've got a 20/20 with flying and draining potentially. And as soon as you pass turn and your opponent passes priority during their turn, you tap it and kill whatever the hell you want. Okay, getting into the last few cards of the deck proper before we go over stones and the divinity deck. We've got 4 in gorgeous full art. 1 I just got from that J-hole, yeah, that's a new word. That J-hole freaking Dayman. And you probably saw my absolute freaking blood-boiling frustration at the beginning of the video with that stupid shit he pulled, with that freaking weird, kinky vampire that he sneaks into all of my things. So I run 4 of Athenia, the sealed god of the ruins. They're all full art, so bear with me as I struggle to read the English language off of a very reflective surface. Okay, she is a 5-drop for 2 darkness, 3 colorless, 1200, 1000, human resonator. Enter. I'm surprised she's not a wizard though. So Lailah's a wizard, but Athenia isn't? And she should have been like wizard deity, or human deity at least, right? Because she's a goddess. Anyway. Enter. Your opponent banishes a resonator. If they don't, they banish a magic stone. So on her enter ability, you have to sack a resonator. It's not just anything like you will in a second here. When this card is put into a graveyard from the field, so when it hits the grave, your opponent banishes a non-J entity. So if you're going up against things that produce moons or any other sort of like dinky kind of token, they can get rid of those instead of having to get rid of a stone or a resonator. So tap, resonators your opponent's control gain -2/-2 until the end of turn, or if there are 4 or more runes revealed from your rune area, resonators your opponent's control gain -400/-400 instead. So one little thing I like to do with her when she's been on the field for my opponent's turn is during my the phase right before my untap step, so it's past turn to me, or at the end of my opponent's turn, I'm not sure about the specifics of this, but you tap her. If you've got the 4 runes revealed, you just -4 to your opponent's field. No, it has to be during your turn so that it stays during your turn. So you -4 their field, and then you go to untap step. She untaps. You've got her able to attack, and you draw your card and go on with your turn. But your opponent's field during your turn now has that blanket -4. So then I run 4 of the magnificent, the illustrious, the amazing Ushuah, the Swordsman of Eternal Flame. I run 4 of these bad bizzles, 2 of them in gorgeous full art. So the card is a 6-drop, 3 fire and 3 colorless, 17/11 human resonator. Fire resonators you control gain swiftness. This is all fire resonators, so he gives himself swiftness, though he doesn't have keyword swiftness. He just grants it to himself. And this is super important for a card I'll go through later, and I always forget this. I wish there was somebody there who just magically tapped me on the shoulder and remind me of this, but there's been many times where I could have won games if I just remember this stupid little thing. But so he's got enter, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You may put a resonator with total cost 5 or less from among them into the field. Put the rest of them on the bottom of your deck in any order. So obviously, Heroic Epic, use this guy, we get something else. If we can use Power of Immortality from the rune deck on him and sack him to Sack Altar or to like Oborozuki, after he swings, we get another 17/17 onto the field. Obviously, with Power of Immortality, he's not going to be swinging again. But if we use Soul Prison, he can. The last 2 resonators in the deck are both in crazy full art. We've got the Belial, evil from the scriptures, and Satan, god of the fallen. So we will go over Belial first. Super easy. He is a 6-drop, 12/12 fallen angel resonator with flying. If your life is 1,000 or less, going back to that combo I told you guys with Lucifer, you can pay 3 colorless less to play this card. So it becomes a 3 hard darkness. No problem. Every card in our stone decks taps for darkness. Enter. Destroy all non-fallen angel resonators. Whenever a resonator is put into the grave from your field, this card deals 100 damage to your opponent. So that includes your resonators, and you have to make sure that you keep your opponent honest when it comes to Belial staying on the field. A lot of people take the damage from his enter, but then as Belial stays on for a couple more turns or whatever, and more resonators die on your side, on their side, they forget or intentionally ignore to take the 100 damage from each resonator. So keep your opponents honest, keep track of that. It could make the difference between winning and losing. The final resonator in our deck, and it's a card that you never, ever want to see in your hand. It is Satan. He is a 5-drop for 1 darkness, 1 fire, and 3 colorless, 14/14. Strangely enough, has these gorgeous wings in the art. Can't actually fly. That's just one of those things that just keeps coming back to bite me in the ass. I am not going to read his ability because it's stupid long, but essentially, whenever you search your deck, you can pay 1 darkness and 1 fire to grab him, remove him from the game, and put 1 fallen counter on him. Every time you take damage from abilities that you control, so like for instance, the Null Magic Stones, or from Lucifer's abilities, or from Astema's abilities, you would put another counter onto this resonator. Then when you finally cast it, and don't forget that in casting, if you're using Null Magic Stones in this deck, you're also producing 1 fire for his casting cost. So produce that fire, you lose the 200 from Null Stone. This is prior to rotation. That goes towards his counters, and then when you finally cast him and put him onto the field, then you get 1 of 2 abilities unless you have 10 fallen counters, at which point you get both. So the ability that I usually use is the one where you grab a resonator from grave with converted mana cost equal to or less than the amount of fallen counters on this resonator. Though you could do the other ability, which is you make your opponent banish resonators until they reach total converted mana cost equal to or equal to or equal to whatever. It's equal to or greater than whatever. That's equal to the number of counters on them. So if you guys want the details, just read the card or go online. My absolute favorite thing to do is when I'm paying for Lucifer's Enter from the Grave effect, the discard portion, I usually like to drop an Ushuah into the grave. The reason being is you can pump so much damage into yourself from Lucifer just being on the field, as long as you can make sure that he's going to survive the turn to gain the life back. You put all those fallen counters onto Satan, and then when you go to cast Satan, if you've got at least 6, when he hits the field, you got a Satan and an Ushuah. Ushuah gives himself swiftness. You get a 5-drop from your deck onto the field, or 5-drop or less, and you've also just given Satan swiftness as well. That's one of those things that I just keep forgetting. It's a phenomenal ability, but great combo. Okay, let's get into the last 2 little sections of the deck. We've got our stones. Stones go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 darkness magic stones. And 4 null magic stones. Null magic stones tap to produce darkness, no problems there. Or tap to produce fire. This card deals 200 damage to you. It's also got null, so if I've got no cards in hand, it doesn't happen very often. Tap, banish this card, produce a fire and a darkness. I tend to either forget or ignore that final ability because this deck has a decent amount of siphoning of cards, so you're not going to be out of cards very often, but it can happen, especially if you're finding yourself replaying Lucifer out of grave and you're constantly having to pay that discard cost. Now going into runes, I'm actually going to reveal them to you in the exact order that I play them every single time I play this deck, unless I'm playing against a really weird strategy deck and I have to change things up on the fly. The first card we will play, and this is either turn 1 if we don't draw a Lailah, or ideally turn 2 so we can also pay the darkness and remove Satan from the game. We've got a gorgeous full art, fallen or freed from the altar. It is a 1 divinity for 1 darkness and 1 colorless, though since it's from the rune deck, it's 1 colorless less, so just 1 darkness. Search your deck for a darkness resonator and reveal it. Put it into your hand. Then then shuffle your deck. You lose 400 life. So it's ideally you want turn 1, put a Lailah onto the field. Turn 2, play freed from the altar, lose your 400 life, pay the darkness from the new stone that you just got into Satan, remove him from the game, and you've got another Lailah in your hand that you just got from deck to play next turn. And then you just start getting the sack mechanics and all that going. And then turn 3, ideally, you'd want to play this gorgeous little number here called Invitation to Purgatory. So Invitation to Purgatory, it is a 3 divinity for 2 darkness chant rune. It produces 1 fire and 1 darkness, which is phenomenal because right after you play this card and you grab your 2 resonators from your deck and put them into your grave, because at this point you've already got Satan in the removed area, you can also use the mana you just produced, the fire and the darkness, to now play a sack altar from hand. So yeah, it produces a fire and a darkness. What does it say? Search your deck for a card and put it into your graveyard. Then if there is a card called Satan, God of the Fallen, in your removed area, shuffle your deck, or search your deck for a second card and put it into your graveyard, then shuffle your deck. So, yep, that's your turn 3 play right there. And then the last 3 cards are just a variation of things that you could use in your toolbox of amazing darkness runes. You can play them throughout the whole game. Ideally, you want to use Power of Immortality early on for your Lailah stone ramp mechanic, or you can keep it for later when you grab a Belial. Your opponent's obviously going to try to kill it, especially if you just cleared their board of giants. If you're going up against a perfect Loki deck, they're going to want to kill the Belial as soon as possible. You keep this bad boy open with 1 darkness stone, you tap it, and you just grab Belial again, and they got to deal with it all over again. We only run 1 Belial, so obviously we need something to search it out. We've got the gorgeous Demon Division. Oh my god. Sorry guys, it's got a little fuzzy because I'm recording near dusk here. It is a 2 darkness, 2 divinity rune. I can search my deck for any card, put it into my hand, then shuffle my deck. And then the final card, which is the only master rune in the deck, and honestly the only master rune you should ever play from the rune deck in a Lucifer build, which is Black Rosario. Your opponent has to banish 2 resonators, so it gets around pesky Eternal and Pesky Barrier and all that other schwazabadoo. So guys, this is the whole deck. This is pre-rotation. I hope you guys enjoyed my updated Lucifer build. It's freaking wonky. I've got a couple of versus videos with it that I'm going to be posting if I haven't already. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a fantabulous Spooktober. See you guys later. Bye-bye.
Don't forget to subscribe and like the videos!